Halo 3 is a phenomenal game. If you're involved in video games like me or any of my friends, then I'm sure you've heard it shouted from the highest peaks by countless people. But let me add to the pile anyway. Halo 3 takes place chronologically at the end of Bungie's Halo pentology. Humanity is on its last legs as a collection of ultra-religious aliens, called the Covenant, wipe out centuries of galactic expansion and slaughter billions of humans. Also, the ones leading the Covenant can hide the truth that would eventually shatter the foundations of their great journey that had persisted for almost 2,000 years. With that short history lesson over, it's time to glaze the Halo 3 campaign! Halo 3 has a number of themes, tones, and good writing in its story, backed up by its predecessors, Halo CE and Halo 2. However, instead of lazily telling you the themes that I believe best represent Halo 3, why don't I show you? What you see behind me is, or was, the city of Voi in Africa. The Covenant has melted away the infrastructure, dirt, rock, and all it views as impure to reveal this gargantuan Forerunner structure. The Forerunners are who the Covenant worships, as they believe the Covenant followed the great journey to ascend to godhood. There's so much to talk about here. Looking up at the sky, you can see the dark, swirling storm, the ruined buildings, how gray and hopeless everything feels, how insurmountable it all seems. Those tie into the theme of desperation as in all Halo lore. Don't be fooled though, because the music betrays that feeling. It's hopeful, loud, primal. That music represents the indomitable will of mankind and the need to rage against the inevitable, which is probably the biggest theme in all Halo games. Unfortunately, I didn't get the footage of the music. You'll see it in the next little while, though. Promise. Anyway, that large structure behind me, at the center of that massive at the center of that massive thing, is known as a Forerunner keyship. It flew all the way here from High Charity under the command of the High Prophet of Truth. High Charity isn't too relevant, though it is the capital of the Covenant and is a giant mushroom-shaped space station the size of a small moon. I have no idea what happened to it, though. Oh, seems like they disabled the Covenant AA guns. Now we can see the sacrifice and monetary loss of the UNSC be honored as they put an end to the Covenant's invasion of Earth.
All ships, fire at will.
And that conveniently leads me to talk about another big theme in Halo: defiance against the insurmountable or inevitable. Though a man may bleed himself dry for a cause, that does not mean it will succeed. This is how most things during the Human Covenant War went for the human side of things. The Covenant was better in every way than the UNSC. Honestly, the only reason the UNSC and humanity survived was because the Covenant fell apart and started a civil war towards the end of Halo 2. It happened on High Charity as well, and though I still wish I knew what became of the Covenant capital. Anyway, it's gonna take me a bit to find a ride and get out of here, so might as well bring attention to a couple of theories as I find my way through abominations beyond our comprehension that were responsible for the extinction of the Forerunners, who are known as the Flood. Yay! Right, so Halo 3 has a diverse and deep sandbox, and a sandbox is basically everything available to the player in the game. Vehicles, weapons, gadgets, terrains, enemies, friendly AI, and how the player controls their character. Every one of Halo's weapons in every Halo game is distinct. Each one functions differently, has different applications, looks distinct, sounds distinct, and they're all pretty cool. However, the games never tell you how best to use them. This ties into the media theory called social cognitive theory, which comes from the chapter reading in the course written by Baron. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Um, Basically, you either have to figure it out or see how your enemies or friendly AI use them. The same goes for vehicles or gadgets. The golden rule in all Halo games is that kinetic weapons are less effective against energy shields, but strong against unshielded targets, and tend to be either hit scan or very fast projectiles. Whereas plasma weapons are strong against energy shields, but weak against unshielded targets and require much more shot leading. Hit scan is where the projectile instantly hits whatever you're looking at, which means you don't have to lead your shots. However, there are no hit scan weapons in Halo 3, meaning you have to lead all of your shots to varying degrees.
Their
How
actions
much you
amazing
lead your
in Halo
shots
3.
depends on the weapon
Beautiful.
you're using. While I've been talking, me and my buddy have been gunning down the Flood. I'd love to talk about the lore of the Flood and everything I think is cool about them, how powerful they are, how dangerous they are, like, and just all the metaphysics that involve the grave mind, which is the central intelligence of them all. Fortunately, sorry, I'm gonna say unfortunately, none of it would be relevant to any part of this. So I'll have to settle for how they work in gameplay. Think of them like zombies. They infect the living, any amount of death just adds to their numbers, and they swarm you. Except these zombies have superhuman strength and speed, can use any gun or vehicle, and can operate starships. At later parts of the infection, they can also just mold entirely new zombies, called pure forms, which are just made of they're just made of biomass. They're custom built for whatever the Flood needs. Shoot, lost my place in the reading. Give me a second. Ah, there we go. They have all sorts of gameplay mechanics that you have to observe, as the game does not tell you. Any corpse on the ground can be infected by these little crawling guys called infection forms, which, by the way, they're 3 feet tall. When you kill a Flood combat form, which is the majority of the guys we've been gunning down, a Flood infection form can reinfect its body and put it back in the fight. Something you might have noticed is that you can blast these combat forms into gory bits. Doing that keeps them from getting back into the fight.
Definitely is that.
His helmet's like a mix between the assault and the miner harness.
Yeah.
Ka-chow.
Ka-chow. Ka-chow.
Hey, you bum! I'm so good at landing those. They call me Mr. Sticky Hands.
As promised, here's the music. And here we are, at the end of the line in the mission The Covenant. This section will be pretty long, so bear with me here. These are the last remnants of the Covenant, who are currently in an air battle with the UNSC behind me. This is their desperate final stand to complete the Great Journey. On the other side of this war, this is the last desperate push of humanity and the elites they've allied with to stop the High Prophet of Truth, and the last of his legions from firing the Halo rings and wiping out all life. All humanity could spare to save the galaxy from the cleansing fire of the rings was a single frigate, and all the crew and soldiers aboard her. That's all Earth could spare, because the rest had to go to try and defend against any possible attack. Something I should mention is why the Covenant and Truth are trying to fire these rings from the Ark. That would be because they believe the Halo rings are what ascended the Forerunners to godhood. But it was one giant misunderstanding turned into a lie to justify the eradication of humanity. See, when humanity was first discovered by the Covenant, they were ecstatic. The world they had colonized was filled with Forerunner relics, as shown by a map they used to track said relics. The soon-to-be Prophet of Truth presented this information to the Oracle for it to interpret, which was inside the Forerunner keyship that was at the center of High Charity. This dormant ship was the birthplace of the Great Journey almost 2,000 years ago, and it would be where their entire faith was upended. The Oracle revealed how it had listened to the misunderstanding since the beginning, and revealed that those symbols stood for Reclaimer, not Reclamation. Those symbols were not Forerunner relics that were being tracked. Each of those was a human on that colony world. The Oracle then said it represents its masters, and that its makers are its masters. It said it would leave to bring them safely to the Ark, but got unplugged from the ship before it could take off. This fact would, and did, shatter the Covenant, as it went against what they had taught for so long. The Forerunners were thought to be dead, and the Covenant the inheritors. But the Oracle revealed that its masters, who were the Forerunners that made it, still lived, or at least their descendants. So, Truth and the two others with him anointed themselves as the High Prophets to lead a genocidal campaign against humanity to bury this truth. This is a clear example of the media theory cultivation analysis from the chapter reading by Barron. Cultivation analysis is the theory that mass media, being the ways their faith was spread, can construct a reality of the world that a culture will accept and base its judgments on, even if that constructed reality is false. That's where religious fanaticism can get you, if you're not careful. Another theme explored throughout the Halo games is discovering the truth. I've already somewhat touched on this whenever I talked about when the High Prophets discovered the truth behind the religion, but here are some more examples from each game. In Halo 1, the Master Chief, who is the famous Big Green Spartan that I am currently playing as, discovers the truth that the Halo rings would wipe out all life, not just the Flood. In Halo 2, the Arbiter learned that the religion that he had dedicated his life to by slaughtering billions and burning nearly a dozen human worlds to glass was a lie by the Prophets. In Halo 3 ODST, it was learning that the Forerunner structure the Covenant was after was under the city that the UNSC fought so hard to protect. In Halo Reach, it was that your Spartan doesn't survive the events of that game, and that truth is shown to you at the start of the game. But what is Halo 3's truth? Well, the truth is kind of alluded to, and I've briefly touched on it already. It's that the humans are the Forerunners, or their descendants at least. This is a little hard to figure out at first, though you can find clues hidden in terminals throughout the Halo 3 campaign that point to this. Huh? Wait. What's that? What is that up there?
High Charity. By the gods, brace for impact!
You know, I honestly could have done without knowing what became of High Charity. I'm gonna get out of here before I get swarmed with Flood again. Alright, so now with the explanation of the media piece, its themes, and the theories I connected to it out of the way, all that's left for me to do is to go over Halo 3's background, how people and media reacted to it, and what impacts it left. Starting with the background, there's already a good bit to cover. Bungie, the architects of the Halo pentology, already had a mass. That's not what that says. Oh my gosh. Already had a number of big achievements before they made Halo CE. Their first claim to fame was the Marathon trilogy, which was considered so important and such a big deal that the trilogy is considered gaming history and is free to access for all on PC. The Marathon trilogy started in 1994 and ended in 1996. Bungie also made Myth: The Fallen Lords, which was a real-time strategy game that would go on to win several awards. I believe they made that in the time between 1996 and 99. And finally, in 1999, Bungie started production on Halo CE. CE stands for Combat Evolved, and by God, did they shape all first-person shooter games in their image with revolutionary developments. Recharging energy shields to help you stay in the fight longer, the two-weapon rule, the radar at the top corner of the screen, and many of the game modes that most FPS games use. There's a lot more to go over with Halo CE, which honestly would be a whole presentation of its own because these games are so dense and so well made. There's so much to go over, but I still need to go over everything else. So, in the year 2004, 9 months before November 9th, Bungie would begin their rushed production of Halo 2. Now, keep in mind, Halo 2 set some crazy records, and they made this game in 9 months. It's simply incredible. Halo 2 sold roughly 2.4 million units for $125 million in the first 24 hours of its release. Keep in mind, these units were sold physically, and that record is insane, and only one game managed to beat it. That game was Halo 3, which sold 2.5 million units in its first 24 hours, a million of which were from pre-orders. Mind you, these are all physical copies, as Halo 3 wasn't sold digitally on launch. This record of selling that amount of physical copies in 24 hours is insane. And it's impossible to beat in the current age, because, well, people don't really buy their games physically anymore. They usually buy them digitally, and I think that's a real shame. But and that no game has ever really been able to drum up that level of hype in a very long time. That type of audience and consumer reaction simply isn't heard of these days. The marketing material also really helped, as Halo 3 had one of the best marketing campaigns ever. Mountain Dew had the famous game reveal with the Master Chief on the soda, also sometimes referred to as they put the Master Chief on the soda. Yeah, you know what? That shouldn't even made that joke. That was a dumb joke. Then there was I Love Bees, which was an ARG style marketing campaign that had people do real life scavenger hunts, scouring the internet or the world looking for things. I don't remember exactly what, but a really recent example to compare it to is the Fortnite Season 4 and 5 promotional stunts. The most famous of which was the Durr Burger in the middle of the desert. That was the I Love Bees ARG marketing campaign. Then, of course, there's a tagline, "Finish the fight," and tell me that isn't a cool tagline. However, Halo 3's marketing magnum opus was the Halo 3 Believe trailer. It was a 6.5 minute long TV trailer. After you put all the spliced bits together, because you can't show that full trailer on TV. You can't really have one be that long. But it showed a diorama showcasing like a still diorama showcasing a battle between the UNSC and Covenant. It was so big that it had to be built and stored in a warehouse. There was even an interactive website that let the user look at the entirety of the diorama. Though unfortunately the diorama has since been deconstructed and sold to various people, so the website is also not there anymore. The other parts of the video were recorded with actors who were acting like they were veterans of the UNSC, or the Human Covenant War, shot in a place called the Museum of Humanity that had replicas of weapons and armor from the war. The largest and most significant reaction to Halo 3 was that, on the day it launched, it had 1 million concurrent players on its servers. On that day, there were 3 million people using Xbox Live, which meant 1/3 of all users were playing Halo 3 on that day.
Oh no! No!
And I'm being instantly.
No!
Halo 3 left massive impacts. I've already explained a couple, and I think you can figure out some of the others on your own, but I do need to go over these two. In the gaming world, it pioneered skill-based matchmaking in ranked games, but it didn't have that matchmaking system in casual play. You would just queue up for casual, and that was it. It wouldn't like sort you between different people. After Halo 3, roughly around 2009, keep in mind that Halo 3 came out in 2007, Halo Wars came out, which was a real-time strategy spin-off, not made by Bungie. Bungie actually didn't like the creation of that, but that's a different topic. A toy line came out called Halo Mega Bloks, which are essentially Legos, but a bit more detailed and a bit more complex. Shortly after Halo Mega Bloks came out, it released with a bunch of the stuff from Halo Wars. They started making them for every other Halo game, which included Halo 3. And that there's still so much more to go over, but those are the general big points for all of that. Hey, hey, glad you watched all the way to the end. Something I want to apologize for before I conclude this is the awful mic quality. You have no idea the amount of hoops I had to jump through just to make this work. I won't explain that here, but if you're curious, you can ask in the replies, and I'll explain that way. Anyway, I spent about an hour sitting on my gaming throne, pondering how to do this conclusion. I needed to tie up the conclusions of all 3 of my writing assignments in the conclusion of this video, but I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. Until now. While I could do a long-winded explanation that goes over the big so what questions in each conclusion in great detail, there's one way I can answer all of them neatly at once. Halo 3 is a phenomenal game, but why do so many people love the Halo franchise so dearly? What makes it so loved? It's because of a theory in the chapter reading by Baron called the meaning-making perspective. It's when active audience members use media content to create meaning and meaningful experiences for themselves. Those who are more media literate have greater control over the meaning they make. Halo 3, at the end of the day, was made to be fun. You can ask 100 Halo players why they love Halo and likely get 100 different answers. They could love the lore, the art style, a memory of playing it with friends or siblings, the themes, or any number of reasons. And it's all up to the player to decide what they love about Halo. This project and the effort I put into it are a testament of my love of Halo, along with its themes and lore and gameplay, and the best part is no matter what you love about it or how you show it, they're all valid as long as it has meaning to you. And that's something special.